So as a great segue is making ConnectQuad great for our students. We want to discuss some of our assessment results, our 3 through 8 assessment results, as well as our high school and our AP results as well. I did a preliminary presentation earlier this summer on our high school Regents results as well as our AP results. Tonight we're going to dig a little bit deeper. With me this evening I have our curriculum team from the district, and we're very proud that they're going to present some of the material for us. With Dr. Mary Losing, who is our chairperson for science, consumer sciences and technology, grades 6 through 12. We have Mr. Brian Frank, who is our district director of social studies and business. We have Ms. Christina Poppy, who is our district director of English language arts, as well as Ms. Karen Moser, who was our administrator for student support and data. So they're going to help us with this presentation. The first couple of slides are going to represent our 3 through 8 results. And one of the things that I want everyone to realize is when you look at the number of students, and we did it by number of students who participated, it is, as the Commissioner of New York State said, it's impossible to compare the results from this year's assessments to last year's assessments based upon the significant change within the test itself. In addition to that, we have some challenges with regards to the number of students who are taking the test. So that's really plays havoc into trying to reach the results. One of the things that I'm very proud of is that, this is not the only measure that we look at students with. We look at the whole child. We look at classroom observations, teacher-developed assessments, screeners, and different tools to kind of evaluate student learning and student growth throughout the year. You'll notice here, New York State is now presenting the data in level 2 or above, or level 4 and above, level 3 and above. So right now we wanted to disaggregate it. Those are the 4 different levels. In grades 3 through 8, you can see the number of students who actually participated in the exam and at what level they're at. From a macro level, it's very difficult to get any sense of trends that are going on within the district. But from a student level, we can drill down, we can see some areas of strength, and we can see some areas of deficit that we could work with some individual children on. In math, very similar results, very similar population of students who took it. And again, from a macro level, not much data that we can ascertain from it. Again, it's impossible to compare the assessments from this year to previous years. But on a student level, we can drill down and we can find those areas of strengths and those areas of gaps.
Well, I have a question. On the 8th grade level, so you're saying only one student scored a 4?
Correct. Out of the total that participated.
Right, which is pretty significant.
It is, and the other piece of that is in grade 8, students who take the Regents exam in grade 8 in algebra do not have to sit for the New York State assessment. So that's another factor that goes into the number of students participating. I think one of our proudest highlights is our Regents results and our AP results, and that's something that I did share a couple weeks ago, and I would like to introduce our district chair people and district directors to kind of highlight their departments and the great work that has been done. They'll speak a little bit about the successes that we've had. They'll speak about some of the work that they've previously done in preparation for that, and we'll talk a little bit about the goals that we have moving forward for each of the departments. But first I'd like to introduce, I'm sorry, I'm going to go first. So we are in the process of hiring a new math director, so I will present the math results. So from a historical, and this is a percent passing, you can look at our integrated algebra numbers, our Common Core algebra numbers, and you'll see the significant increase in our percent passing in our Common Core algebra, which in 2016 you can see, my pointer's not working, or too far away. Geometry was one of our areas of concern this year. It's definitely something that we had planned for. We did a tremendous amount of professional development over this past summer, as well as a tremendous amount of curriculum writing to align ourselves to the Common Core geometry course. If you notice, I think the last column, if you look at the Common Core algebra, which is 95% of our students passing, that is the old Algebra 2 trig course. That's indicative of a majority or all of our students. What happened was we made a decision earlier last year that we were going to commit to the Common Core Algebra 2 curriculum. Our teachers had done a tremendous amount of professional development, they had done a tremendous amount of curriculum writing, and we wanted to honor their work. And in consultation with them, as well as some other district directors, we decided to move forward with focusing on the Algebra 2 Common Core standards and coursework. Midway through, I would say the fall, the state decided that they were allowing students to take both exams, and that they would allow for students to take the higher of the two to put on their transcript. Again, we met with our staff, we showed our commitment to them, they showed their commitment to us, and we decided to, again, move forward with the Algebra 2 Common Core curriculum, and you see the great results that we received from that. We did allow our students to sit for both exams if they chose to. It wasn't a mandate from us, but there was not one student who performed better on the Algebra 2 trig than they did on the Algebra 2 Common Core. So we're very proud of the work that our teachers have done and the work that our students put in. So it is definitely a highlight for us. Sorry. When we look at mastery rates, this is always something that we're looking at. We're looking to always increase both our percent proficient as well as our mastery rates. If you look significantly, we have continually grown in the area of Common Core Algebra, almost doubling our mastery rate. Again, not at the level that we want it to be, but we're working towards that mastery rate on a continual basis. Again, the area of concern was Common Core Geometry. We only had 7% mastery. It is something that we did put a tremendous amount of work in this past year. Our teachers did go out to different courses and conferences to get more information and more work with that, and we did realigned our curriculum to make sure that it matched the standards. Again, 12% for the Common Core Algebra. We did have more students for the Algebra 2 trig reach mastery rates, but we're looking again, that's the first real administration of that assessment, and we anticipate to continue to grow in that area as well.
So I just have a question. Now that algebra has obviously been implemented first, it's been Common Core for the last few years. Has the mastery level increased over time?
Yes. So you see, in 2004 we only had 2%, 10%, and then 22% of our students.
In geometry, this is the first year that they couldn't sit for both exams, correct?
Correct. So to do a little transition into our AP courses, we offer 4 AP courses in the high school in the area of mathematics. We have Calculus AB, Calculus BC, Computer Science, and Statistics. And if you look historically, we continue to do very well and increase significantly in the areas of Calculus AB and the Calculus BC. We did have a minor dip, a 10% in Computer Science. And this year we did not run an AP statistics course, so no students sat for that exam.
Are those teachers also go out and train?
Yes.
For AP?
And that's something that we're looking at district-wide we've asked the district directors and chair people to look at those who are teaching their AP courses, when the last time they received their training, what other follow-up professional development they have received, and then planning for any adjustments that need to be made to go forward.
I just have a question on, for the calculus in year 2015, it took a dip and then went back up. Is there any reasoning behind why there was a dip?
I don't have any data for that, but I could look in to see what the trend was. But again, these are average scores for our students, so these aren't the 5s or the 1s.
Because this is not Common Core, so is it because of the way that the test was structured, or?
A lot of times the AP courses, the way that those tests are structured, does affect the performance of students, and you can speak to the physics this year. But I'll let Mary discuss that as we go forward. So last year, for the 2015-2016 school year, we did a tremendous amount of work on summer curriculum writing, focused primarily around Algebra 2 Common Core, as well as professional developments throughout that year and that summer. And again, we offered some additional courses to our juniors and seniors to support them in making sure that they're passing that Algebra 2 course. This current year, we're going to analyze all of the assessment data. We're going to find our areas of strength, our areas of weaknesses, and we're going to work on those to improve throughout the school year based upon the instruction within the classroom. Again, we have an embedded staff developer who's going to be working with our high school staff. So a lot of it will be not pull-out format. They'll be pushing into the classrooms and working primarily with our teachers on strategies. And again, we're going to increase the focus on geometry. We did that this past summer with a really intensive professional development program, as well as rewriting that curriculum. And now I'd like to introduce Ms. Christina Poppy, our Director of English Language Arts. To the right.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to discuss with you our results for the June 2016 Common Core Regents exam in English Language Arts. As I mentioned, as I stood here at around this time last year, this was a new exam for our students. This is the first iteration for our Common Core students taking this exam. They took it in June. Typically, that exam was given the comprehensive English Regents was given in January. And so we had a shift in timeline. I think you'll see in a moment that might have worked to our advantage. We experienced a slight uptick in terms of our overall percent passing to 98% for this iteration of the exam. The only point here is that the comparison becomes a little faulty because we are talking about two different tests. Our mastery was tremendous, and I am so very proud of the work that the teachers committed to over the course of last school year in order to really sort of wrap their heads around the exam and what the requirements are of the exam and how they were going to push their students to achieve on this exam. That work was done, and I'll speak to this in a moment, at every level, 9th, 10th, and especially those 11th grade teachers. We met in sort of a more relaxed setting a number of times over the school year. I pulled the teachers into PD to talk about best practices, to talk about students and what they needed and what their writing was showing and the multiple choice strategies that seemed to be working for them in the classroom. So those sessions were wonderful because they were true collegial sharing sessions. We also had an opportunity through the high school administration to offer our practice regions for our midterm exam. Mr. Moran arranged for the timing to coincide with busing and transportation needs of students so that our student body in 11th grade was able to feel the exam 6 months before they were actually taking the exam. And the teachers were able to use the data that they collected as a result of their scoring of that exam to inform their instruction. So it was a win-win situation. As you can see, I just hit that quickly, our mastery rate here rose to 79%.
Okay, so that's fantastic, because I've always been concerned with the numbers before this. So to see this on a Common Core, you would think out the gate would, you know, be 30s, 40s. So to see this number is very impressive.
It's so strong. And looking back at our past results, I can tell you that I did some digging, and part of the reason for that reduced mastery rate for the Comprehensive English Regents exam might have been due in part to the fact that our 10H cohort was not tested during that January session. So they were not included in those results. But be that as it may, you know, we are looking at a more holistic number with the 79%. And so we are looking to continue that trend, of course, for 2017. If I can move into the AP results, our historical data has remained pretty consistent. Both our AP language and our AP literature courses experienced an uptick in terms of their average scores. I can say for the AP language course, something to note is that we had more students than ever before write the exam. Over 90 students sat for the exam. Mr. Furtman came to me and said, I am so very proud of their performance because the amount of students who were writing the exam almost doubled over the previous 2 years. So that's in and of itself is an accomplishment. In terms of the 2016 results for AP Literature, our student body remained the same. We had 50 students write the exam both years, but as you can see, we have a slight degree of increase in terms of our results for 16. as I mentioned before, we did work very hard at every grade level in the high school in developing that curricular articulation toward the exam. We actually also ran a session that I'd like to continue into this year for PD of our honors and AP level teachers, just talking about, you know, what it means to be an H level and AP level student and every grade level in the high school, and talking about some of the expectations and requirements we have of students. So those articulation sessions are going to continue into 16 and 17. We have plans in the works in order to implement those for our high school teachers. Of course, we're going to continue to look at the data as we did for the midterm or mid-year mock regents exam. We're going to do the same for the June data and sort of drill down and take a look at where our students really performed and where we could continue to make the types of curricular improvements that will lead to their increased performance. And I also can say that the high school teachers have truly appreciated the amount of opportunity that they have been granted to attend out-of-district professional development through Eastern and Western Suffolk BOCES. They find it refreshing to hear different voices, not only mine and not only those of their colleagues, but to hear from other professionals in districts surrounding us and in Western Suffolk and even potentially in Nassau, and to hear from different presenters. I asked them to bring their takeaways from those conferences into our department meetings and talk to their colleagues about the best sort of practices and takeaways that they gained from those sessions. So that's been a very sort of positive initiative within the department. And they said that the PD has been sort of wavy, I guess, in years past, but they were certainly appreciative of the chances that they had last year to pursue those opportunities.
So one of the things that is, that Christina did focus on, that is a trend in all of our departments, is one of the things that we do ask our staff is if they are participating in an outside conference, that they have a professional responsibility to bring that back, share it at a department meeting, share it with their department chairperson or director. And I think the amount of dialogue that has created has been amazing, and it really does enrich not only the conversation, but also the learning of others.
How about going to the nationals?
We had a conversation earlier this year with our administrators and seeing what other national conferences are out there and what benefit can they do. So that's definitely a possibility.
Ask about the writing. What, you know, because it's always been a reputation of not just Connect Wide, but all schools, that our kids are coming out and they can't write. What have you done to improve that?
This year, and this is kind of pulling away from the realm of the high school, but this year, Ms. Sarah Cordova, who is our district-wide literacy consultant at this point, she's working in our middle schools and in some of our elementary schools, specifically on writing instruction. This year, she's working particularly with our 8th grade teachers, moving them into their own written units of study and in surrounding writing. They did work this summer for 5 days. 8th grade teachers came to central office as a team, and they wrote their first unit of study. Yesterday, Ms. Cordova was here along with the 8th grade teachers, all of them inclusive of teachers at all levels, and we introduced sort of the framework of the work that was done this summer to everyone. Ms. Cordova provided her focus for the school year for the 8th grade teachers, and I will say that they are enthusiastic and eager to begin the work that their colleagues in 7th and 6th grade have been doing for the last 2 years. So we're seeing that continuum of experience for our students. The continuum needs to continue into 9th and 10th and beyond, but the work for this year is particularly to introduce those writing units of study to the 8th grade. Ms. Cordova is also continuing her support of our 7th grade teachers. She's pushing into their classrooms, co-teaching lessons, demoing lessons. The teachers are invited to sort of observe each other during that time period so they can see Ms. Cordova and their colleagues kind of implement their units of study that they wrote last year and not this past summer, the summer before. The 6th grade continuum continues as well, which is beautiful. Ms. Cordova was very particular in saying that we can't just drop 6th grade. Yes, they've had 2 years of me. Yes, they've continued with 2 years of the same sort of plan of action, but it's not fair to say all done, because this is a process, and we recognize that the units of study that teachers wrote 2 years ago of course, are going to change according to the changing needs of our students. And that flexibility is built into them, but Ms. Cordova will be there on 4 occasions this year with the 6th grade teachers in order to hear some of their concerns, possibly demo and or co-teach. I said to the teachers on Superintendent's Conference Day that her work in grade 6 is going to be what you feel that you really need from her. So that's a kind of peek at the middle school work that's happening. In addition, I'm very happy to say that our district-wide literacy team at the elementary level recommended our district's purchase of the units of study in writing. And so this year, the pilot year of this entire sort of focal point on writing in our elementary schools is happening in grades K, 3, and 5. Ms. Cordova, along with Ms. Michelle Whitman, who is another literacy consultant, are working into the district in order to provide support for our teachers as they implement the framework of the units of study in writing.
That's the only elementary.
That's all every school, all 7.
Lee, I don't know if I can speak to this, other than reading, obviously, my own children's writing. I've been reading scholarships for the last couple of years for OBMS and BOSTI, and I have to tell you, when I first started reading it, I'm like, oh my God, some kids were talented, I have no doubt, but there were some that was like, and as time went by, into next year, like last year, I was blown away. The writing is definitely improved so much, and the style, and the creativity, it was definitely over the last few years reading, you could definitely see that they're stepping up their game.
So if we talk about the difference, and Ms. Cordova and Ms. Whitman talk about the concept of actually teaching writing instead of doing writing in our classrooms, and that's the true shift that all of this, that is the underpinning of all of this work. So teachers are understanding the writing process and how to implement that and teach it to students, so that it becomes almost a meta-cognitive process for them. And as they're proceeding into high school, they are going through the stages. They've just sort of condensed and collapsed them. But they have an understanding of the pieces sort of the puzzle, if you will, in that respect.
So it's incredibly rewarding to see the work that we've invested in and the progress that our students have been making. And our 8th grade teachers are the learners, and but our 8th grade students are the ones who have been through the process for the past 2 years in the middle school. So it's really going to accelerate the process for our 8th grade students and teachers. You know, the work that we're doing at the elementary level is amazing. We've done a nice job honoring teacher voice, having input from all the different constituent groups to see, you know, what's best for ConnectWise. And I think the takeaway has been truly amazing. The amount of professional development is intensive. So this year is a lot of work. We've done you know, I know I've spoken about it before, but we've done a lot of work trying to coordinate, making sure that we're lessening the impact on the classroom, lessening the impact on the building, and the district as well. And so far it's going well. We've completed today. We have 1 more session left for our kindergarten folks. Large group, and then we start to go and work within the buildings, within the teams itself, and really make it personalized, which is probably the most exciting part of this whole process. It is a large undertaking, but the feedback that we're receiving from our staff, and I'll share this with you. I'll send you all the retake feedback sheets. It's, you know, to hear this is the best professional development I've ever had. This is, you know, the excitement level of our teachers is really top. So it's fun.
Nice to hear. Thank you.
All right.
Elementary level, right now it's a pilot program, the writing.
I misspoke. I shouldn't have said pilot. It's our
I was gonna come across the
inaugural
table.
year. Yeah, I was like, it's our inaugural year. I should say it's not a pilot. I misspoke. I'm sorry. This is where we're going.
Okay.
So part of that is in that 3-year plan that we shared with the board, both with mathematics and with literacy, is you can see the rollout over the next 3 years of the writing process, as well as the math and focus process. So,
What about elementary? Do they use the reading units?
Okay, so our long range focus is eventually going to pull in the reading piece. At this time, there are particular teachers in particular buildings who have asked to, and this I can say is a pilot, asked to pilot the reading units of study. However, it is not a district-wide initiative at this point.
Let me guess,
So,
it's more.
So the other piece of it is,
in some respects, yes.
based upon the recommendation of Ms. Poppy as well as Ms. Abraham and Ms. Moser, who have been facilitating this process over the past year, the recommendation was, you know, even though we're incrementally rolling it out in different grade levels, that we provide all the teachers with the resources now. So all the teachers have the writing units of study now. And that gives the, you know, you always have the teachers who are looking out the door saying, here you go. And it gives them a chance to experience, experiment, dive in a little bit. We will try to provide some ancillary support to them as well. But we wanted to give everybody the material so that common language and common conversation can happen across all grade levels and all buildings.
So it's possible, should, you know, teachers of other grade levels this year be interested in the writing piece. But they will receive the PD support next year, so that's built into the plan for grades 1, 2.
Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Dr. Mary Losing, who is our science chairperson.
Yes. Unless you want to do yellow.
Could not do that justice. Here are our science results for our Regents exams. As you can see, living environment and earth science and chemistry really are within normal range of fluctuation with different students every year. We did see a bit of a dip in our physics Regents results. Our teachers examined the test, looked at the questions, and felt that one of the issues was that our students were having some difficulty pulling out the pertinent information from the questions to be able to understand exactly how to tackle the problems. And so in order to rectify that, they have added more word problems this year so that they can make sure that the students are practicing this from the beginning of the year all the way through, so they'll get much better at decoding what the questions are really asking of them. When you look at our mastery, you can see that the mastery went up a bit in earth science, fell slightly in living environment, but went up quite a bit in chemistry. We had 14% increase in mastery in our chemistry numbers and fell a bit in physics. So again, I'm really proud of my chemistry teachers. They really, especially in my honors chemistry course, they increased the rigor of the course. They really incorporated the SAT to subject test material into the course so that the students would be prepared to take the SAT subject test as well as the Regents exam and make sure that they were prepared for any kind of college requirements that would want a subject test in science. So they had that preparation throughout the year.
And the physics, with the AP test too, I noticed that their numbers weren't that great this year either. So I wonder if it's more a reflection of...
Well, physics is a little bit of a different story. Let me get to that on the next slide. You can see that in the AP Bio exam, the results were the same as they were in 2015. 3.36 was our mean score. We had a slight dip in chemistry, but we also had a very low number of students, so I don't think you could draw a conclusion from that. AP Physics B is no longer given. And AP Physics 1, which is what you're referring to, is where the numbers went down. But that is not an anomaly to Connecticut. That went on throughout New York State, throughout the country. The AP College Board runs a moderated listserv where AP teachers from all over the country can communicate and collaborate. And they really expressed a lot of frustration at this exam. There were items that were tested that specifically in the curriculum say, this will not be tested, and it showed up on the test. Why they did that, I don't know. I can't imagine that they thought that that was good practice and good business, because we know that they're looking for more and more students to take the test, and this certainly isn't going to get that to happen.
I knew a few students, I took the test last year and they felt defeated.
Yeah,
They felt
and,
really great with the class, they felt great with the regions, and felt defeated taking that.
and yet many of those kids went on and they're taking AP Physics C now, and they feel very comfortable in there. And AP Physics C is a very, very challenging course. So I think that speaks to the quality of the AP Physics 1 instruction. The test may not reflect what the instruction prepared the kids for, but I don't fault the teacher for that at all. I fault the College Board and their test for that. AP Physics 2, we did see our numbers go up. One of the things the physics teachers and I have discussed is potentially revitalizing honors physics, but including in honors physics the old AP curriculum, AP Physics B curriculum, and so building that into a really rigorous course, and then having most of the kids go right to AP Physics C. Because for our students that are planning on a math, science, and engineering career, that's a much stronger course than AP Physics 1 or AP Physics 2. So that's something that we're strongly considering. And
Would that be the next school year?
yes, that would be for 17-18.
Are these teachers also getting PD?
Yes, both the AP Physics 1 and 2 teachers, they were trained. The course is only 2 years old, and before the course started, they went to the summer training. And our AP Physics C teacher went to the training this summer because it was the first time we've run a section of that course. In terms of the things that we're doing, as you may know, New York State put out a draft of the New York State Science Standards this year, the new New York State Science Learning Standards, which are an adaptation of the next generation science standards. And so we have professional development for every grade level 6 through 12 to walk the teachers through what these standards are, what they look like, and the kind of pedagogical changes that are going to be required in science instruction. And then going along with that, because I feel it's very necessary for us to start now in preparing our curriculum for these changes, we did curriculum writing in the summer, and we create a new New York State Science Standards aligned unit in earth science, living environment, chemistry, and physics. And we're teaching them now, and we will be debriefing, changing them, and trying to make sure that based on the feedback from the instruction now, we make them better, and we go ahead and we want to continue that professional development this year, as well as the curriculum writing next summer, to create the next unit, so that by the time these standards are officially rolled out and implemented, that we have tried everything, we've tested it, and we know where we're going with this. The Board of Regents is going to have this as an item for adoption this fall. They haven't asked for it for October, so we're hoping that November is the month that they will be adopting these new standards. And then, as I said, we're going to review what we've created and revise. We're going to continue our curriculum writing for the next unit. And I mentioned that there was a pedagogical shift in the way science is being taught, and that comes under the heading of three-dimensional teaching and learning, where in the past students learned the content and they did a lab that confirmed that what they learned was in fact valid. What they do now, the new teaching and learning method combines the content, disciplinary core ideas, the cross-cutting concepts like patterns, cause and effect, that really not only affect science but affect every content area, with the science and engineering practices, so that the students are learning all these things at once, that they are focusing on looking at real-world problems, developing questions that they can test, and coming to the content that way. So it makes a lot of sense to them, rather than just memorizing a piece of information to remember it for a Regents exam. And so that's why there really does need to be a lot of work to create the lessons that are going to go along with this. And of course, every year we look at our data from our state assessments and look at how we need to alter our instruction to address any kind of weaknesses that our students may possess.
And I'm going to just ask Mary, she's, but Mary is one of the top people in New York State that people go to with regards to science and new standards, and she was recently asked, and I'll let you explain.
I was asked by the science associates at the State Ed Department to sit on their panel when they present this to the Board of Regents.
Mary is seen not only across Long Island, but across the state as a go-to person for the new standards and science itself. So we're very fortunate to have her within our district as a tremendous resource to our teachers and to our students. So thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Absolutely. Let me introduce Brian Frank to talk about our social studies.
Good evening. Okay. Before we start going to this, I just want to explain that for social studies, we're in a transition period. 2014, they adopted new standards and new framework. The understanding was that by 2018, the new regions would be used in global history first and then U.S. history. As I go through this, I'll explain what happened and how things have adjusted and changed a little bit. So, for U.S. history regions, we've been consistent, slight fluctuations, but that's pretty much within the norm. For global history, 87, 89, 94, so we're seeing a steady increase. I will tell you that a 94% passing rate for global history in any district is pretty darn impressive. We always, of course, always want to improve, but it's still a pretty impressive passing rate. Mastery level, again, for U.S. history, we're seeing increase over time, 71, 74, and 77%. 49, 52, 57, very nice increases, and we'll continue to focus on doing that. The one thing that we're going to see change, and this goes back to the shift in the frameworks of what's going on. There was a feeling in the social studies community that our old framework, our old standards were outdated from the 1990s. It was time to update them. So we did go about updating them, and really the shift has been pushing away from memorizing every single fact, every single detail, to really developing themes. More of almost a little bit more of anthropology mixed with history, and understanding and identifying themes and concepts over time. And the framework was really trying to focus on doing this from kindergarten through 12th grade. With the global history, in 2018, we're supposed to also see a shift away from the 2-year course of study. Global history has always been this very large complaint, and I think justified, that the student would have to take 2 years of global history for the regions. And that has been around for a very, very, very long time. The state came back and said, we'd like to shift it to 1 year, 10th grade only. And we're also going to change the time periods in which the test is going to be given. So for global history regions, it will be from 1750 to the present time. That was supposed to happen in 2018. We received a memorandum from the state saying we can't meet that deadline for 2018 for the global regions for the new version of the global regions. So what that means is the new version was, and I just want to explain, it's somewhat, what the goal had been was that the new regions would mimic almost an AP style test. And in fact, they looked at AP Euro, they looked at AP US, they looked at AP World, and if you talk to an AP teacher, they'll say, yes, this is very much the style that I'm used to, and they immediately recognize it. That was supposed to happen in 2018. 2018, they're sticking with the old version of the regions that we currently use, but with the new content, and only 1 year. So that's it's going to be somewhat difficult to do these numbers as we get to that point because of the changes that are taking place. But that's just something to keep in mind. For U.S. history, they said basically they'll get back to us. It was supposed to be 2019, but they said we'll get back. They'll get back to us. Maybe 2020. I'm not quite sure. But I'll let you know when I find out. Okay. The Social Studies Department currently has 6 advanced placement courses. We also do have another course we just adopted, which is college credit anthropology. But currently, we see for AP World, we've been fairly consistent. For AP Euro, we actually did a slight dip. And when I went back and I wanted to know why, we looked at that. AP Euro last year was revised. The College Board went back and completely revised the curriculum, as they did for AP US. And currently this year, they're going to revise the curriculum for AP World. What you're starting to see is really the focus on analysis and themes and concepts through time, and writing, and the ability to write. And when Ms. Poppy was talking about writing and really pushing the issue of writing in the classroom, that had been one of my focuses this year. I actually asked the teachers, take time out of the course of study, if you need to sit and actually practice writing and understand the concepts of writing along with English, we need to take that time. We need to focus on that to move forward. So the departments have been great, especially with the new inquiries that have come out, which are part of these overarching questions, which require a significant amount of writing and a significant amount of analysis. There is that shift away from learning every single fact to really doing the analysis and understanding the ability to write and be articulate and to actually get yourself prepared for college. And that's really one of the major goals. AP Macro, we see a nice increase. AP Government, we were fairly consistent. AP Psychology, we went up a little bit. What we are seeing also, we are seeing somewhat of an increase in enrollment, and also we're using the honors courses are helping to increase the rigor to prepare the students for the AP courses. So it's working quite well. A couple of things. Our major focus when I came here last year was to look at the curriculum and also look at professional development for the teachers, because we knew that the framework had changed and shifted, and that the teachers were going to need professional development, curriculum writing, and when I say PD, as you're saying, Eastern Suffolk BOCES, professionals coming in, for example, SG Grant, who actually created the inquiries for New York State. He came in 3 or 4 times, and we had training for the elementary teachers, middle school teachers, and high school teachers. Well, high school teachers were actually doing this year, but I did some of the training for the high school teachers last year, and we'll push into it this year. The curriculum writing we did over the summer was inquiries, and we developed quite a few. And we continue to do that for 2016. Again, professional development. I am incredibly happy with what I've seen in the classroom. The elementary, middle, and high school teachers have developed inquiries, and they've been using them in the classroom. That's been working out very positive. The toolkit is actually the term that they use when they talk about inquiries and really practicing and developing over time. And of course, data analysis is always one of the key things. We always like to look at testing results and figure out where our children did very well, and where they may have had some challenges, and to deal with some of those issues.
So I'm just going to highlight one thing. So Dr. Losing she put together an entire conference this coming Friday. It's Long Island ASCD. It is one of the largest conferences on Long Island for educators, both from the administrators and from teachers. And Mr. Frank and Ms. Abraham are presenting this.
We're actually presenting, we're talking about how to successfully integrate social studies, the new curriculum and the new framework at the elementary, middle, and high school. And in fact, I have to thank Dr. Losing for this. I've had calls from other school districts actually asking me to help them out with this process. And they will definitely be there to watch and learn and to figure out how this is done, because I was coming in here, I was a little nervous when I felt we had to get it done now, get it moving along. And it has been fantastic. The teachers have been fantastic. We've been moving along, but there are other school districts, several other school districts that are not even close to me. And so now they're kind of scrambling a little bit, and I think that's probably why they're reaching out.
So you did mention the author of the frameworks, which was SG Grant. We were fortunate enough with Brian being able to facilitate that, to have him come down and actually speak and work with our teachers in developing these inquiries. And having the person who wrote it, who knows it, and sit with our staff, the sense of pride that they walk away with, being able to sit down with someone who wrote with the curriculum that they're working on was amazing, and the feedback that we received from them was good.
I have to tell you, and again, from what Ms. Poppy said, the amount of professional development we have done in the past that we're doing now has been fantastic, and it's only been positive feedback. When I talk to the departments, when are we getting more? When can we do more? You know, this is great. This has been a fantastic experience. When can we write more? When can we develop more material? It's been great. So.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your efforts. Keep up the good work.